Hey y'all, welcome to the Filling Station. In today's episode, we're going to discuss how everything really starts with a seed. And if we're not careful, if we don't deal with things in seed form, before it grows into something big, we can have I always say that we can start with a little small seed, but at some point it's going to grow into a very, very big oak tree. So we need to be careful with that. But everything starts with a seed. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode here at the Filling Station.
Welcome to the Filling Station. Ooh, ooh. Let's talk about it. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, ooh. We're gonna refresh, refuel, inspire, motivation with the Filling Station. Ooh, with Miss Dee Dee.
So have you ever thought about really how, when we put a seed in the ground, and how, we cover it up with the dirt. It reminds me of when we were in school and we used to put these little seeds in these little cups and put them in the window, and then we would watch them grow, right? We would get so excited when we were younger because, when we put dirt, playing in dirt was fun, right? To some point, let me say that. But to plant the seed and then, for us to water it and put it in front of the window so it can get some sunlight, and to watch it grow was the interesting thing because, your eyes get big, cause it started with nothing and then you end up with something, right? That means we planted a seed and we watched the seed grow, right? That is something to think about in life, right? Every single thing starts with a seed. And you may think that, no, literally everything in life starts with a seed. God is our source. He created us from his seed, from him. He created us, right? So that was a seed that was formed. God allowed a man and a woman to conceive, man seed, woman seed, to conceive, to form one seed, right? That's something to think about. In life, our words are seeds. And we don't think about those words once we say what we say. And, sometimes we speak in anger, or sometimes we just speak and not even really think about the words that we're saying, knowing that, you are actually speaking that. You are planting a seed, and you wonder why sometimes, some of the things that you're encountering or some of the things that you may be experiencing at the time, it's because those are the words that you sown. Those are the things that you spoke into existence. And the Bible tells us in Proverbs 18:21, I believe, that life and death is in the power of the tongue, that, and sometimes, we have to be mindful that our words are very, very powerful because we are planting seeds with our words, whether we realize it or not. And that's one of the things I have to be mindful of, when I speak things or when I hear people speaking things, and I have to say, be careful at your words. Choose your words carefully because you're speaking those things into the atmosphere. You're speaking that into existence. And, I'm not that name it, claim it, grab it. I'm not all of that. I'm just saying that, if you speak $1 million and you don't go out and get the work to, align your actions with your speaking, of course, it's not going to just fall in your lap. But I am one to believe that the words that you speak, if you speak negative, then you produce negative, right? When you speak positive, you speak positive. A seed only reproduces that of its origin. That's something to think about. I use that example in my book, right? So a seed only produces that of its origin. When you plant apple seeds, you don't get oranges, right? So when you plant apple seeds, you expect apples to grow. Is that correct? That's something to think about. So if you're believing for something, if you're praying for something, if you're hoping for something, you've got to be careful that once you plant the seed in faith, not to go back and dig it up with unbelief, or dig it up with the words that you speak because you haven't seen it manifest, or you hadn't seen the manifestation of it. That's something to think about, because it's so easy to speak something and believe something when we're praying for it, and then because when we don't see it, maybe God ain't, maybe that's not, or I wish this, or we change because of not being able to see it at that time. So we have got to be careful that if this is something that you're believing for, you've got to speak that the seed you've sown through faith, let it sit there and let it rest. And sometimes it takes a seed a while before it actually manifest, or sometimes it takes a little bit of time before it sprouts, or sometimes you don't see what's going on underneath the surface. Let me say that. You don't see what's going on behind the scenes, or what God is doing, behind the care, behind the wall, behind the clouds. Let me say that. We don't see those things, All we see is the dirt that's on the surface, not realizing that there's something taking root. Something has already taken root. Your faith has already taken root, right? The seed has already been planted. Your faith is what's keeping it at that seed in the ground. And you cannot get distracted because you don't see the manifestation of that seed growing. Because right now, all you see again is what's on the surface. You've got to give it time. And some things take time. And I've said so many times, y'all, we are so spoiled because we want it right then and not want to go through the things in order for that to manifest. But yeah, that's another subject, right? We're talking about everything starts with the seed. You've got to be careful that the seeds that you're sowing, and please be mindful that the seeds that you are believing to grow and to produce a harvest, even though you don't see it manifesting and all you still see is that dirt sitting on top, there's something going on underneath the surface. Yeah, I don't know who needed to hear that today. That something is going on. God is up to something. God is doing something. You know what? If nothing else, is for me, because there's some seeds that I know I've sown and I've been waiting on the harvest for a long time. And because I hadn't seen it, doesn't mean God it's not happening. It doesn't mean that God has changed his mind. It doesn't mean that God didn't hear me. It doesn't mean that that's a no. And I always said that your delay does not mean a denial. Sometimes it takes seeds a while to produce. Sometimes, and we'll go through that. I think I'm going to do a little one, on the process of the seed. And sometimes the seed has to die so that it can produce and live again. And sometimes we give up in that dying stage because we think that it's over. We've aborted the mission. We've given up. We've given in because, it hasn't happened yet. But everything in life starts with a seed. That's something to think about. So what type of seeds are you sowing? What type of seeds are you planting? Where are you planting your seeds? That's something to think about. Where are you planting the seeds that you're sowing? And one of the things I had to remember about soil, you have got to place a seeds. Some seeds have to be planted in the right environment, at the right place, at the right time. Because if you don't plant them at the right time, then it's not going to produce the harvest that you're expecting in the timely manner that you're expecting. And sometimes we miss the season of planting and not realizing that, I missed that. If you're believing for that, I missed that planting season. So I got to wait until the next time around. If you're a farmer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some things are just planted at certain times, and it all starts with planting the seed and getting the ground ready for the seed. And sometimes getting that ground ready for the seed, it takes a little work. And a lot of us are just lazy and don't want to do the work. That's something to think about. Many people want the harvest, but they don't want to go through the things in order to get what they need. That's something to think about. Many want the harvest, but they don't want to do the work. That's just lazy. We want, but we don't want to do the work. But in life, everything requires work. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And if you get it like that, then you're not going to appreciate the sweat and tears and the heartache and pain and the things that you had to go through to get that. So sometimes when we go through those things, we tend to appreciate it a little bit more, right? That's something to think about. So what type of seeds are you planting? Have you really gone back and dug up, in unbelief, lack of faith, not waiting, lack of patience, all of that good stuff? Or have you dug up the seeds that you were really expecting to grow and you wonder why it hasn't produced yet? Could it be because you have not given it the proper nutrients that it needs so that it can grow? Because once you plant the seed, it still needs nutrients, right? You've got to give it some water and some sun, just like we did when we were little. When we were younger, we had to give it some water every now and then we had to give it some sunlight so it could just help it grow a little bit. And sometimes we fail to realize that, when we plant those seeds, we've got to give it some nutrients. Wait a minute. Lord, I need to spend some time with you in praise and worship. I need to spend some time with you and speak with you and get my instructions so that I don't mess up my seed. I don't mess up what you're doing. I don't, lose focus on what you're doing. That's something to think about, and sometimes, some people just set this, plant the seed and just set it and forget it. Just let it grow. Well, some seeds need some nurturing. You tend to forget about the nurturing part of that. That's something to think about. But y'all, every single thing in life starts with the seed. Be exceptionally careful at the words that you speak. Your words are powerful. That's something to think about. But are you sowing seeds of love? Yeah. Are you producing the seeds of the Spirit? Are you planting the seeds of the Spirit? Are you reproducing the seeds? Are you reproducing God's seed? That's something to think about. That's something to be mindful of. Are you reproducing God's seed? Are your words positive? Are your words negative? That's something to think about. But everything in your life in this journey, during this journey, it starts with a seed. And a lot of people, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this because nobody likes to talk about money, right? So everybody think that, the church wants your money and I'm not giving my money to this. And let me tell you something. There has been times that we have sown, and I would write on the check what I'm believing God for, right? And when I tell you how God manifested himself in those situations, and I got screenshots of the pictures of the check, because see, I still write checks only so that I can put in that for section, right? See, some people do it all. Y'all do it what works for you. What works for me is to name my seed. And I do believe in naming my seed. This is what we're believing God for. And I'm okay with whatever the amount is. However my husband chooses to do on that end, I just need that for section. This is what we're believing God for. So I believe in sowing and reaping. I believe in planting seeds with money. I do believe that, but I do understand that it must be planted in the right soil in order for it to produce. I need to say that again. Seeds must be planted in the right soil in order for it to produce. So you just going out there just flying out, sending things and expecting it to grow. That's probably why it's not growing, because sometimes you just throw seeds on the ground and then the birds or something that came and they took it away, or something came and just ate the seed. It's gone. All because it wasn't planted. It wasn't dug. It wasn't planted in the right soil. And sometimes you have to, in order to plant a seed, you need to know what type of soil you're using, what type of soil you're planting in. Yeah, that's something to think about, especially if you're believing for a harvest. That is something to think about. So y'all, everything in life starts with a seed. That's something to be mindful of. Choose your words carefully. Be exceptionally careful at not digging those seeds up. And let me use this example, because I said this with my daughter. I said, some things you have to learn to kill it in seed form, because if you don't kill it in seed form, it has potential to grow. And it's much easier to dig up that little small seed than to knock down a big tree. Let me say that. So if something happens in your life and you know that a seed has been sown, you have a choice to uproot that seed. Go back and apologize, or go ahead and talk to your sister or your brother instead of holding the anger or madness or all of that grudge, that heart stuff. It eats away at your heart, and you don't even realize that that's what's taking place, right? So if you're at that place to where some seeds have been planted, you need to go back and think about those seeds. Am I producing from those hurtful seeds? Am I producing from those lustful seeds? What am I producing? Because at some point, a seed has been planted, a seed has been deposited. You are living the seeds that you have planted. That's something to be mindful of. You are producing the things that you have planted and may not even realize that is exactly what's taking place. You are producing what has already been planted. And if you don't like your harvest, that's something for you to be mindful of. What seeds did you plant? Where did you plant those seeds? And if you don't like it, it's time to go back and uproot them and go back and replant, so that you can reproduce and produce a harvest that you are pleasant and pleased with. That's something to think about, y'all. I am super, super excited because I know everything starts with a seed. Be mindful of that. Choose your words carefully. Think about your life. Examine your life. And if you're not producing a harvest, if you're not in your harvest season or producing the things that's pleasant to you, and things that you enjoy being around, or things that you enjoy doing, or the people that you enjoy being around, then I would go back and check, what type of seeds have I planted? Where have I planted my seeds? And you really can't be mad at the people. You really have to think about yourself. The Bible tells us to let a man examine himself, right? We have to be mindful of the things that we have done, not what they have done. Because, yeah, that's something to think about, right? That's a whole nother subject. But everything in life starts with a seed. Be careful with your words. Be careful with your actions. Your response is a seed. Your response is a seed. You've got to be mindful of that, because there's a reaction to every action. There's an action to every reaction. Your everything in life starts with a seed, y'all. I hope this is very, very simple, but it's very, very powerful that everything in life starts with the seed, be it good or bad. Good or bad, that's something to be mindful of. We have good seeds, we have bad seeds, right? And sometimes we've got to know how to go in and weed out the bad seeds so that it does not destroy our crop, so that it does not destroy our harvest. That's something to be mindful of and to think about. Let me say that, y'all. So I am super, super excited as always as to what God is doing in this season. It's a new season, y'all. It's harvest season. Let me say that. And I'm so grateful at that. Yeah. Super, super excited at that, y'all. So I always like to leave you with this, right? It's not what happens to you that matters. What truly, truly matters is how you respond to what has taken place, because growth truly comes through how you respond. Growth comes through your response, y'all. Have an awesome day today on purpose.
It's the filling station. Let's talk about it. Yeah. We gonna refresh, refuel, inspire, motivation. It's the filling station with Miss Dee Dee.